And welcome back to The View for a very short review of a disappointing day at the office. We're not going to start laying into our young players already. Matthew must have told somebody that Matteo was a poor player before and then must be proven right. High ceiling, may come back and talk to us when he's 28 and he hasn't hit his high ceiling, because that's what that means. Or go look that one up. But yeah, not a good day at the office. Not a great day for Matteo Joseph. He wasn't the only one by a stretch of the imagination. And we'll talk about some individual performances today that just really, really weren't good enough. If you're in that second string of Leeds 11 players and you're trying to give Daniel Farkas something to think about to try and get back into the first team, I think you might be waiting a while for your next opportunity. The players that stepped in, fine in the first half, but overall, really, really didn't do enough. Steve Whitesnake bites in the chat. How are you doing, mate? Too many changes, says Tony. I know we don't do the cup, but still disappointing, and I would agree with you on that one as well. Today just shows how important promotion this season is. More performances like this. If we don't, it's a one-off, and I wouldn't, again, look, let's make this really, really clear. The reaction usually tends to be slightly off kilter all the time. Anyway, if you go back to the Burnley game, we weren't getting promoted because we drew at Burnley. Then we battered Cardiff and we were going up as champions. Then we have a non-entity of a transfer window and we're not going up again. And then we beat Coventry and we're going up as champions. So again, this flip-flopping, it's an FA Cup. It was 7-8 changes made for the team. I wouldn't read too much into it, really, but there is things worth talking about. Ian Farke picked the team and they were awful. No quality in the final third. I would agree with that. The cup is not a priority. It's not, but it's embarrassing. But we go out of the cup, but we will have a chance to fix that with Millwall again later on the season. Sunderland have drawn 2-2 with Watford. They were losing 2-0. So that's a positive result in as far as the league campaign goes. They were terrible. Same again, Harrogate. Yeah. Full-time Sunderland dropped points. Joseph passing was atrocious. It really was. Chambers looks decent. Yeah, Joseph looked disinterested. I think he tried an awful lot in the first half and it wasn't good enough, and Gilavogi had a poor enough half. But we'll go through it. When we look at the team lineup to start off with this, we'll go through the first half, second half, and then we'll talk about the kind of the key stuff that went on in the game. But before we get to that, Con just quickly saying, I went into that game not really caring about the result, but the performance annoyed the shit out of me. It did better off out of the cup. And Joe says, honestly, in a spot where this is kind of fine, it's just an Alwell shrug. It's just a disappointing performance. I think we all said we don't mind going out of the cup as long as the performance is decent. I think that's what was missing there today. When you look at the lineup, we saw Isaac Schmidt come back in on the right back position. That means there's probably nothing going on behind the scenes with him. I thought Schmidt had a very decent game at right back. I thought he looked okay. Be interesting to see him with a Dan James who gives him an opportunity to overlap rather than having to underlap all the time. But I thought Isaac Schmidt had a really decent game there. No Max Fober in the squad at all, whether that's his knee problems flaring up again or we'll need to find out what's going on with that one, whether we like him or not. When he has played, he's been very good for Leeds and he's a good, strong option to have, but not on the bench, not on the 11. Interesting to see on that one. And Sam Chambers comes in to make his first start for Leeds, his debut in the FA Cup. And I thought Sam Chambers had a very, very good first half, a very exciting looking player. Went out of it in the second half a bit, but so did most of the Leeds team, and that should be said. If you look at the first half, possession-wise, Leeds at 59% of the possession, really without doing a whole lot with it. We were tidy on the ball. It was a slow enough tempo. We weren't pressing them when we hadn't got the ball. I thought that's why Joseph would be in the team, to do that pressing. We didn't get that. We stood off in a block. We didn't do a huge amount. They definitely started the game better. Millwall, Leeds took over the first half, and towards the end of the first half, Leeds ended up with 59% possession. Chambers had a fantastic opportunity in that as well, where he made a beautiful run on the right-hand side, cutting across the box. And unfortunately, his shot is just too central, and the keeper makes a decent save straight at him, but he's moving away from him, but gets his hand back and makes a pretty decent save from that. Willie Nanto's volley is a chance as well. That comes in from the right-hand side. It's a snapshot volley. We'll talk about Willie as a 10. We'll talk about Joseph. We'll talk about all the players individually as well in a few minutes. But yeah, Nanto's a really good chance. And again, it's a good save by the keeper, but it's still very central for him. So it doesn't happen. And then we can see the first goal, and it's a sloppy goal for me. You've got an opportunity on the right-hand side for Willie Nanto to play the ball down the line for Sam Chambers. He does it. He takes his time. He takes more touches. He gets pressed by three players into a position where he then loses the ball by trying to toe poke it through to Schmidt. Schmidt falls over and goes out of play. Probably a soft free kick if it was given anyway. But Leeds have two players sitting on the ground looking for a free kick as they attack. Aziz comes inside Ethan Ampadu and smacks a shot, takes a wicked deflection off Josh Gilavogi's ankle and puts Darrell the wrong way and ends up in the bottom corner. Yeah, and outside of that, just really wasn't great. Nanto should have cleared that ball, should have got it down the line when he had the chance. hesitate on the ball, and it doesn't happen. And yeah, it's a poor goal to concede. Also, win the first half. And Ethan Ampadu didn't have a perfect day at the office either. I wasn't overly impressed with what we saw from Ampadu. Slow out from the back, lots of finger pointing at people. When he does finger point, nobody moves. So why he's doing that? Because if there's an instruction there, no one's listening to him. And then he ultimately slows the game down and turns around and comes back with the ball. And the prime example in the first half was when he got the ball from a pass into the box, his own box, takes a touch out of his feet and decides to hesitate on the ball, gets dispossessed in his own box, and Aziz smashes the crossbar with the shot, and then the follow-up is an open goal and it's headed wide, and it should have been 2-0 to Millwall at that stage, and a horrendous mistake by Ethan Ampadu. Far too casual at sometimes coming out from the back on the ball, likes to do it all at his own pace, and he needs to pick up the tempo and move the ball quicker into people's feet. And for me, throughout the game today, Ethan Ampadu was more worried about everybody else than he was about what he was doing himself. Then you go into the second half and you're thinking Leeds will go at them a bit more. There might be some changes at half time. We didn't get any changes. We didn't really see an increase in the tempo. Millwall sat back. Should have expected that. And the game kind of chances. One big chance missed in the second half, and that was the penalty. Willie Gnonto, again, really soft penalty. Barely any contact, but we get it. And then Pascal Stroud puts the ball into the bottom right-hand corner. It's not hit with a huge amount of pace. It's a good save by the keeper. Touches it onto the post. And then that goes hell. The 90th minute, then there's a ball gets smashed across the 6-yard area. Nobody in the penalty area tapped that one in. There was one in the first half similar, went right across the goal line. Again, nobody there to finish it off. Josh Gilavogi, for their second goal, then it played into his feet. And this wasn't just him. There was quite a lot of players. Ramazani a few times today as well. But it didn't seem to be aware of any players around him and thought they had more time. Whether there was a lack of communication on the pitch, I don't know. But Gilavogi gets caught in possession and they break. And the ball goes out to Aziz on the left. And as it goes out, Ethan Ampadu is turned inside, talking to the players behind him and telling them where to go instead of getting to the ball quickly. And he doesn't. And he doesn't cut across the player quick enough, doesn't get over, and doesn't block the shot, which is smashed in at Carol Darlow's near post. And Carol Darlow shouldn't be getting beaten at his near post. It is hit with a lot of pace. Jaden Bogle got it in the neck earlier on this season for not blocking a shot from a breakaway against Burnley. Ethan Ampadu is way too focused on everybody else behind him to not get across and do his job and block the shot, or at least force the player to go wider. And the ball goes in the back of the net. So poor there as well. But really across the park, there wasn't a huge amount in the second half that did anything to give Leeds confidence about getting forward. And then you see James DeBoyle coming on for the last couple of minutes, and it's pretty much decided then this game is over. We're giving players some minutes there. So, but yeah, just not a great game at all. We'll go through the team and talk about them before we get to the comments. And I think Sam Chambers was a nice cameo in terms of the first half performance to see from him. It was nice to see him in the team. Nice to see another option in 10, giving Brendan Aronson a bit of a rest. And we'll talk about the Aronson-Gnonto 10 position in a sec. But Chambers, I thought, looked really, really dangerous going down the flanks. He was looking for the ball. He was keen. He wanted to get inside. He wanted to get shots away. And that's what you want to see from a young player. So well done to Sam Chambers. A good performance from him. Went out of in the second half when the space kind of went away a little bit. Leeds were more left focused in the second half as well. So not getting as much of the ball as he did in the first half. Isaac Schmidt also on that side started the game very well. I thought he had a good game for me. He was up and down the park. He was trying to create things. For Sam Chambers' shot, it's a beautiful first time pass from Isaac Schmidt. Ball comes over his head in the air and it's knocked inside first time and in on goal he goes, and unfortunately doesn't score. But I thought Schmidt had a fine game. I thought there's a really good backup option there for Jaden Bogle on the right. What he's got to do to get onto the bench, I don't know, but he showed enough in that game for me to think that he's very, very capable. I wouldn't have put blame on his doorstep at any of the goals. Mateo Joseph, we're talking about today. A poor performance from Mateo. And again, if he's hoping to force his way into Daniel Farke's plans, it won't be right now. He's got to, as has been sarcastically said about his high ceiling, he does have a high ceiling. He's a talented young player, and we won't know what his ceiling is like until he's a much older player. But he's not taking his opportunities today. I thought in the first half, his hold-up play wasn't there. The balls were pinging off him and he was giving away possession. His passing was really poor. He was behind Willie Gnonto a couple of times, or too short in behind, or not finding the right way to the pass, and ultimately lost the ball more often than he didn't today. So it'll be a tough conversation for Mateo Joseph to try and force his way into Daniel Farke's starting plans on the back of that. He might get the opportunity with the changes coming up with a couple of games in midweek, but what I will say is that he wasn't surrounded by the first string, and this second string of Leeds didn't set the world on fire against Harrogate Town when they went out against them. They didn't set the world on fire again either. Whether he plays better with the first 11 is always a proper judgment of a young player. But yeah, didn't do enough today and could have done an awful lot better with what he had. Maybe trying too hard, maybe too keen to impress, not focus on the basics of the game. And that was a big problem for him. Willie Gnonto in the 10 for us tonight. I thought Willie was okay in the 10, but one thing that we didn't see from Willie Gnonto that we see quite a lot from Brendan Aronson was the movement off the ball. When Leeds are breaking forward, Aronson is continuously free looking for the ball. He's always moving around in pockets. Willie Gnonto for a lot of the first half and parts of the second half was very stationary in the centre of the 10 position, surrounded by 4 players, so not really a passing option. When he did come out, he went wide to try and get him the ball into his more natural positions, and he was decent on the ball, Willie. But just in that number 10 position, for me, he needs to be an awful lot more active and looking for that ball and trying to link the play an awful lot more often. But when he did get a chance, he tried to get some shots away, but did okay for me. But maybe need to look at that again with, other players around him. Josh Gilavogi in the middle of the park was okay. First half specifically, I thought his passing was tidy. Broke up play when he needed to, win his tackles. The deflection is unlucky. He does turn us back to the shot. He probably shouldn't. Clips off his heel and goes in. And then the second goal, he gets caught in possession and the breakaway ultimately leads to the goal. But there's a lot of blame to go around on that goal. Gilavogi, Ampadu, Darlow. There's plenty of blame for that one. But yeah, okay. And I think we'll see him probably go back into the reserves where he's likely to stay for the remainder of the season before finishing up with the club at the end of the season. And then Ethan Ampadu, as I said, for me, off it today, too slow in possession, too much showing, too much showboating, pointing around. Look at me. Not needed. Needs to move the ball quickly. Needs to get Leeds forward. Needs to start attacks much quicker. Caught in possession a couple of times. Slow. Passing was poor in the first half as well. These ones across the ground that he tries to play keep getting cut out by midfielders. They're too easy to read. So yeah, sloppy from him on that. And then again, doesn't close down the attacker Aziz for the second goal for me. Instead of talking to the players behind him, he should be going to the player and doing his job first. Doesn't do that. Ball goes in the back of the net. But not only his fault, Gilavogi, as I say, and Darlow as well. But yeah, as I said, the backup 11 didn't do anything today to really set the world on fire or give Daniel Farke any real headaches. And I think when we go back to the big games coming up between against Watford and then against Sunderland, Daniel Farke will probably have his other 11 back in the side. Some comments, Jason saying, I'm not fussed, just prove that Farke knows his best 11. I think we all do at this stage, Jason. Disappointed, but that's not what we're going to win the cup. Rather can concentrate on the league. Poor by the second string of players. Agree with all of that. Not overly bothered about today, just one of those, isn't it? Joseph needs a loan and Gnonto is average. Unmoved by the game. Karen, that's probably the best way to put it. Refocus on the next game. The result means nothing to performance for a couple is worrying depth. I think they're okay when you're talking about one or two players coming off the bench and coming into that team. Then I don't think there's an issue. And I think we've seen that. Even Joseph coming off the bench against Cardiff and Scott, and Gnonto coming off the bench and doing fine. Ramazani's been good off the bench. It's just when you put so many of them in there at the one time that the level clearly drops a little bit. And they're not used to playing with each other every week either. So that should be said, but not an excuse. Also, would have snapped Betta's hand off for 10 million for Joseph. I think you might regret that in a couple of years' time, Tom, but we'll have to wait and see. We have to be proven right or wrong on that one, and time will tell. Never want to see us lose, but the FA Cup is a distraction that we don't need. Just happy there's no injuries. Should have taken 10 million for Joseph. I think it's a bit extreme, lads. I think we're reacting to one poor performance. So I think, it's a bit over the top. We beat the first team at the Den. The second team today might as well give your women's team an under-21. Enjoy the FA Cup, mate. We're top of the table. We're looking at the league. You can enjoy the FA Cup. Will you be out in the next round? So would we have been out in the next round. So what? Not worried about going out, as promotion is far more important. A decent performance would have been nice, though. Oh, well, on to Tuesday. Exactly. Wasn't happy with Ampadu today. Seemed indifferent. Yep. Totally agree. 10 million from Mateo was robbery. We'll wait and see, lads. I really do think you should park that one and wait and see. That could come back in a while. Joseph needs to improve tenfold. He's young. He will. Let's not put all the blame on one player's shoulder. We conceded 2 goals today. There's a lot of defensive blame. Very few people having to go in Ethan Ampadu today. Not one person. One person saying he was average. No one else has a word to say about Ethan Ampadu today. But we're all laying into a striker. Okay. Momentum is important, though. Said it really, really quietly, but Aronson is our most important player. He shows something else in there. No sense of urgency. It felt that it was a cup match too. Tuesday, Watford is most important. And Farke couldn't afford any injuries. Players knew, hence lack of depth. Loads of comments coming in. Not a great day, but I don't think we should overreact. We do. We always overreact. We overreact to a win. We overreact to a lose. Let's not put all the blame on the young striker's position when Leeds couldn't keep a clean sheet today against the 13th place in the table. So, yeah, look, a bit of context is needed. Yeah, Steve, a lot of players had opportunities to show their mettle. Unfortunately, they didn't. That's the important team. Chambers, I think, did put himself in Daniel Farke's thinking. Whether he starts or not, I don't know. Joseph needs a loan, lost everybody received. Yeah, he might get a loan. I think that's probably what happens next year with him, but you're in a position this year where it's I wonder how many people are having to go with Joseph were the same people that were screaming for him to start every game after his Chelsea appearance last year, because I remember the volume of that being very, very loud from a lot of people. And it seems to have gone very quiet now all of a sudden. Let's just focus on improving our young players and getting them developed and see them in the future. This doesn't matter. Right with this game. If we do go to the Premier League, I think a loan for Joseph is probably very likely. But let's not overreact. And again, as I say, we conceded 2 goals. There were mistakes for both goals. There probably should have been a third gone in against us as well from Ampadu's mistake. I haven't seen anybody really criticizing that at all. So, yeah, a bit of context needed. You can't play 90% in these types of games and expect to win. We got bigger fish to fight. We do, and that'll be it. I mean, there's not a huge amount to talk about. We're not going to drain the ocean on this. Leeds didn't get the performance we wanted today from the second string of players. We know what our starting 11 is like and what they can do. It's not nice to lose at home. I would have preferred a win, but it is what it is, and we are where we are. Shows how much Aronson was missed, and yet some people will still tell you that he's one of the worst players that we've got in the squad. His movement is really important, as is Dan James's pace. And we saw Firpo and Solomon, when they came on, they made a bit of a difference as well. Schmidt or Vober on the bench. I think I'd go with Schmidt, but I think Vober gives you a left back as well as a centre back option as well. So that's probably more likely why that one happens. But look, folks, that'll be it. We're not going to drain the ocean, as I say on this. Leeds 0, Millwall 2. Bigger fish to fry. An important result today in the fact that Sunderland didn't win. They've drawn a defeat, would have been nice, but it does mean that gap between them, us and Leeds, Leeds and Sunderland, us and Sunderland, is extended a little bit more towards the back end. And if Leeds can get a decent result against Sunderland, that might put them out of the equation completely, get a good result against Watford, and then hopefully that gap between us and Burnley starts to grow as well. See what Sheffield United get on later on today. If you're watching this later on today, you'll know. But that'll be it, folks. Look, massive thank you as always. Whether we agree or disagree on things, it's absolutely okay. I've got my opinion. You've got your opinion. This is not an echo chamber. Your opinions have been shown and heard. I accept their opinions. I do accept the Joseph criticism. 100% very valid. I just think we should maybe hold off on the final decision on the player until he's maybe a little bit older. But we'll wait and see. I could be wrong, and I'm okay if I am. And if I'm right, fine. Doesn't matter. We move on anyway. Folks, thanks for joining me today. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Shame this won't dictate too many people's thoughts, I don't think, after the next 10 minutes. But move on with your day. We'll see what happens with Sheffield United's game, and we'll be back during the week, back on Monday morning for some news, and we'll get ready for the game in midweek. Enjoy the rest of your day. Talk to you soon. See you.